Alright, welcome to another edition of us working on our old store, turning it into a home and a studio for my art. What we're doing today is we're actually working on some track lighting for the front gallery. The only problem was I ended up with a whole bunch of these track lighting heads that I found at a real cheap price. And they work great. I've tried the bulbs, so they all work great. Problem is, I really don't have the 60 plus bucks a piece for the sections of track. So rather than spend $300 or $400 for track for the 30 lights, I decided that I was going to modify these track heads so that I can add them in to a box. And as you'll see here, we've got the track head, and it is mounted inside a plate that mounts inside the box. And that'll allow me to take it apart, and then I can wire nut and into the wiring when I put it up into the ceiling. So today we're going to show you how to do that. Here are the tools that we use. I use a grinder to cut the plates. I use some of these plates. You can either use the ones with that punch out, or you can use the ones that are just flat. Let me show you right over here. We got some flat ones here. But I just tried to use what I had on hand first. Try not to make you dizzy. I used scissors to cut a little piece of, to match the top. As you can see here, after I open up the back end of it from the screw, this piece matches the top of this so that it's easier than holding the light head directly on top of the piece there. So we have that. I found that the little mounting screws that these plates come with do not work on the plastic boxes that we have. A pencil to mark them, pliers to, excuse me for the wiggling, pliers to pry them and bend them up. Then we're going to need a drill and a driver to do the screwing, and I've got some pop rivets and a pop rivet gun to do that. So that's all the pieces, and we're going to get started in just a second here, but I'll pause it while I get things set up so that you can not have wiggliness. Thanks. Alright, so the first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to take off these screws off of the back of it. Now I've already loosened these, so it'll be real easy. So we just pop this loose, and you can see in here you've got two wires. Those are the wires that you're going to anchor in with your wire nuts to your Romex wiring. So the first thing I need to do is clip these wires. Need to clip these wires. Sorry, I had to grab the wire cutters, or just pull them out if you can. But right now it would probably be easier with snips, or maybe these scissors will work. So we'll do that. Yeah, there we go. So we just clip them short. Now eventually we're going to use wire strippers and strip the ends of these, but I'm not going to go into that. That's basic wiring. So you'll just strip those down, and you'll be able to use wire nuts to wire these onto your wire. All right. So now that you've got this in, what we're going to do is we're going to pull this down in, and what we're looking for is the shape here. Now you can take a piece of cardboard, or like my son's little flashcards here. You can take a corner piece of that. I used an old business card, and I just cut it so that the shape fits nice and evenly on the ends. So now we're good to go for cutting the plates. So I'm going to set this aside. And the first thing we do with the plates, we're not going to use these screws. They won't screw into the blue, so I'm just going to remove the screws. So we just remove the screws, and I'm going to save these for later. And then, I don't know if you can see so well, that's probably a better angle right there, but what we do is we just find the center, and we can either cover the hole, or if you've got the flat plates, do it that way. One thing I do want to mention is that you don't want to use plates like this. You can see here that the screws are further apart on these than they are on the light switch plates. So the light switch plates would not match up to these. You would need a light switch in there, and it would anchor in with that. So don't use these. You can either use these or the flat plates. They'll work great. So back to this. The first thing we do is we trace our pattern on here, and we just mark it with a pencil. The important thing are the ends and the sides. We're not going to be cutting nice round corners in these. I suppose you could if you really wanted to, but I'm going to show you here. The next thing we do with this is we'll take the grinder, and I'm not going to grind for you. I've already pre-done one, but I cut along the side here and the side here, and then I cut down the middle, and what we end up with is an H-shape cut. So we've cut down to the lines that we need to reach, and as you can see, it should fit our piece right in there. Now if you cut right centered on those lines that you drew, the width of the cutting wheel will give you enough width that you can put it through. Now from the back side, let's move this aside. From the back side, we're going to grab with our needle nose pliers, and on these a little part's going to come out. So if you're popping this out, you're going to have little pieces like this that are going to come out. If you use a flat plate, it's going to be much better, but these still work. So what you're going to do is you're going to grab it and carefully just make sure that you're evenly bending it, and it usually goes pretty good, and you're going to bend it perpendicular to the plate. And these are going to be your anchor points, and then the trick is to get in here, and even though, oh, there we go, okay, so you can always bend it flat again, but we're just going to bend this one up. And you may need to fuss with it a little bit after you do that. But what we're looking to do is this should fit right in here. Now if you've done it right, it looks like I'm a little bit tight. I could probably bend this one up a little bit better. The needle nose pliers are good for getting in, but actually it would be better once you've got them up to maybe use some other pliers for the straightening. You just get a little bit better bends. Fuss with it for a second, and that should be good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to push this in. It should be snug, but it should fit. Hold on a second, and I will push this down and on. I actually like, because there's a gap on this one, I like to slide. There's a gap on this side. I like to slide the side that's already notched out onto that one. So let me push it down. You won't be able to see, but okay, now you can see I just wedged it on, and you can slide it right up. So you slide it up to the height that you need. Make sure you give yourself some clearance, because if you've got some drywall or anything that's going to go in, you want to make sure that you've got the clearance, but I guess that's when you set the box. So just make sure you've got enough clearance that you're not going to bump the pivot, and you can see already it's holding really well. So then all we do is we take our drill and we drill in on the sides here, and you can see that this side actually has a little more room. So we're gonna drill in right here on this one, and then we're gonna put in, and this is an 1/8 inch bit, because our pop rivets, our steel pop rivets, are 1/8 inch diameter. So what we'll do is we'll drill the holes, and then we pop rivet, and once you've got that, you pull your wire through just a little bit, enough that you can do it, and then you're good to go there. I'm not going to pop rivet this thing just for time. The other things you should note, I'm gonna be using some drywall screws, because I know they really grab well on the plastic, and you just place the drywall screws in here to anchor it, and on the other side, and it's real easy to drill. This light tends to block it, so just make sure you pivot it this way, and you'll have plenty of room to get your drill in. Now when you get it all done, Mary, can you hand me the other one? When you get it all done, it should look like this, and on the interior, after you've nailed, you'll screw these in after you've got your wiring and boxes placed, but they should screw in like that. It holds very firmly. I don't have any problems with twisting it or bending it to the angles we need. And then you'll have lights, and the cost on this was about 56 cents for the plates, buying them new, and 27 cents for the plastic boxes. You could go with the metal boxes. They're a little more expensive, but it was a lot cheaper than 60 bucks for track lighting. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you like it, go ahead and subscribe, and we'll be putting more things on our YouTube channel. Thanks a bunch.